Have you ever seen a man who should feel small on a stage full of giants, but instead looks like the only true giant there? Have you ever seen someone who was laughed at because his body did not meet magazine standards, but who made the whole world forget how to breathe because of his charm? This is the question that for years has never been answered by Bruno Mars. And tonight, we will uncover it together. Imagine this. The spotlights at Madison Square Garden shine so brightly. The music starts to thump. On the left and right of the stage, the Victoria's Secret angels walk, the tallest and most perfect women on the planet, with legs almost twice as long as most people. And in the middle of them stands one man. One man who is only 165 centimeters tall, 5 feet 5 inches. Almost exactly the same as his own girlfriend, Jessica Caban, who is 5 feet 4 inches. That man is Bruno Mars. At that second, the internet exploded. Not because of his incredible voice, not because of his dance, but because of a cruel comment written by thousands of people at the same time. Look, he looks like a little kid lost among the models. Look how short he is. Memes appeared. Cruel laughter filled the comments section. And no one knew that behind the professional smile and expensive tuxedo that night, the heart of Peter Jean Hernandez, Bruno Mars's real name, was bleeding. If you are a woman who has ever felt too short, too curvy, too skinny, or not pretty enough for the world's standards, then this story is for you. Because what Bruno did after that humiliating night at the Victoria's Secret fashion show was not just about fashion. It is a lesson on how a man turned his biggest insecurity into the most deadly and sexiest weapon ever owned by an entertainer. And if you watch this video until the end, you will understand why it is this 165 centimeters man who managed to make the most beautiful women in the world feel small when they are near him, not because of his height, but because his confidence is so huge it swallows the entire room. So stay here, because in this part 1, we will enter the most secret mind of Bruno Mars. We will go back to his childhood in Hawaii, to the moments when he first realized he was different, and to the traumatic night at Victoria's Secret that changed everything. In part 2 later, we will dissect in detail the anatomy of his sexy weapon, the 4-inch Cuban heel boots he wears, the philosophy behind the tuxedo, fur coat, and retro glasses that make everyone forget to look down at his feet and only focus on looking up at his eyes full of confidence. Let us start from the beginning that has never been told by any media. Peter Jean Hernandez was born in Honolulu, Hawaii, into a poor musician family that was rich in love. Since the age of 4, he was already on stage. He was a little Elvis Presley impersonator. He wore a sparkling jumpsuit and shook his hips in front of tourists. Everyone laughed and clapped seeing how adorable he was. But there was one thing that even since he was little he had already realized. When he stood next to other kids his age, he was always the smallest. When he became a teenager, his friends grew tall, their shoulders broadened, their voices deepened in a different way. Bruno remained small. His body was tiny, slim, and that made him have to work twice as hard to be seen. In the American music industry, especially in the early 2000s, the standard for a frontman was tall, muscular, like a superhero. Just look at Justin Timberlake, Usher, Chris Brown. They all have a height above 180 centimeters. Bruno, who came with a height of 165 centimeters, was considered not marketable. There is a story circulating among producers in Los Angeles, a very painful story, that when Bruno first offered his songs, a major label executive said, "This kid has a golden voice, but who wants to see an R&B singer who is as tall as their little brother?" Those words stuck in his head like glue that never dries. That insecurity grew silently. He never showed it in front of the camera. He always smiled. But those closest to him knew. He was an obsessive perfectionist. He had to make sure every dance move was sharper, every vocal note was higher, every performance was more energetic than anyone else. Because he felt he had to compensate for something. He had to make people forget that he was short by making them unable to look away from something else. And that was the beginning of his genius. Then came the moment that should have been the peak of his career. In 2012, Bruno Mars was invited to perform at the Victoria's Secret fashion show. This is the most prestigious stage in the world of fashion, watched by hundreds of millions of people. For a male singer, this is validation that you are considered sexy by the beauty industry itself. Bruno should have felt proud. He performed Locked Out of Heaven and Young Girls with full energy. But fate had other plans. The Victoria's Secret stage is designed to make models look like goddesses 2 meters tall. Its runway is long. Its lighting is from bottom to top to elongate the silhouette of the legs. And there Bruno had to walk among them. The television camera does not lie. When he stood next to models like Doutzen Kroes and Miranda Kerr, who are 180 centimeters tall plus 15 centimeters high heels, the difference became so brutal. His 165 centimeters height looked even smaller. The internet, which never has a heart, immediately judged him. Those comments can still be found today if you search for them. So short, I thought he was tall. So cute like a mascot. Poor his girlfriend Jessica Caban is almost the same height, so they look like siblings. Thousands of comments like that appeared overnight. Fashion media began writing articles with painful titles. Is Bruno Mars too short for Victoria's Secret? One journalist even wrote that his appearance was adorable, the most hated word by every man who wants to look sexy and authoritative. Adorable is not sexy. Adorable is a word for a puppy. Many men would be destroyed after that. Many men would refuse to appear at fashion events again. Many men would wear elevator shoes secretly and feel ashamed. But not Bruno. Bruno did something that only a legend can do. He sat quietly, he reflected, and he decided to no longer fight that perception. He decided to master it. He decided to make it part of his mythology. He once said in a rarely quoted interview, "I cannot change my height. God created me like this. So what can I do? I can make people see something else. I can make them see my confidence before they see my height. And that is the key to everything. Confident is sexy." That is the message he wants to convey to all the women who watch him. Let us talk about Jessica Caban, the woman who has accompanied Bruno for many years. Jessica is 163 centimeters tall, only 2 centimeters shorter than Bruno. In Hollywood, where male actors usually look for a much shorter partner to look dominant, Bruno and Jessica's relationship is a beautiful anomaly. They are almost level when standing together. Their eyes meet without anyone having to look up too high. And many cruel netizens use this to mock Bruno. They said, "Look, even his girlfriend is almost the same height." But for Bruno, this is honest love. He never looked for a shorter woman to make his ego look taller. He looked for a woman who made him feel enough. And when a man feels enough with himself, that is when he becomes most attractive. That insecure feeling did not disappear overnight. It was a long process. Bruno began to study short male icons, who became the biggest symbols of sex appeal in history. He studied James Brown, who was only 168 centimeters tall, but whose stage exploded like a volcano. He studied Prince, who was only 157 centimeters tall, but all the women in the world knelt for him. He studied Michael Jackson, who was also not tall, but whose movements made gravity look embarrassed. He realized one same pattern from all these legends. They never tried to look tall. They tried to look big. Big in aura, big in presence, big in energy. And to look big, you do not need extra inches on your feet. You need extra inches inside your soul. From here was born the Bruno Mars persona that we know today. A persona that we will dissect thoroughly in part 2. He began to build an optical illusion that was so smart, so fashionable, that the fashion world that once laughed at him now imitates him. He found his first weapon, Cuban heel boots. Classic boots with thick and sturdy heels that add almost 4 inches or about 10 centimeters to his height. But he did not wear them like someone hiding something. He wore them proudly, with the sound of the heels clicking loudly on stage, as part of his musical rhythm. Every step he took made a sound. Every stomp became part of the drums. Then he added his second weapon, a tuxedo cut with great precision. Bruno's tuxedo is never oversized. Always slim fit, always above the ankle, showing off his expensive boots, making the silhouette of his legs look longer. Plus a fur coat that falls dramatically, retro glasses that draw attention to his face, and a fedora hat that adds visual height at the top. All of that is not a coincidence. It is architecture of confidence. Female fans who have followed Bruno for a long time, especially adult women who have seen many men in their lives, they say the same thing. When Bruno performs, you do not see a short man. You see a man who is so comfortable with his body that you forget to measure him. You only feel his energy. A 58-year-old fan from Ohio once wrote a very viral comment, "I have been married for 30 years. I love my husband. But when Bruno Mars smiles with his glasses and his fur coat, I feel like a 20-year-old girl again." It is not about height. It is about how he makes me feel seen.